We're live again. Okay, hello, welcome to part 2. Let me know if this is any better. Basically, I've unplugged the external mic, so now it's using the internal mic of my computer. So let me know if this is okay. It's really annoying with YouTube that you can't like do a preview, or at least I don't know how. I'll have to Google that. Okay, more people joining us again. That's good. Just let me know if the sound quality is okay. And then we can, it's still crackling. Oh my days. Still crackling. Man, that's annoying. Hello, Dennis. Dennis, I've got some sound issues. It's pretty minor. You say we can hear your words fine. Okay. I feel like I'm back on the tech support line. This is live. Yes, George, this is live right now. But you can hear me. It seems to come down when you talk quieter. Okay. It gradually gets worse. You know what? I'm just gonna carry on for now, and then next time if I do a live stream, I'll restart the computer from scratch. It's intermittent, you say. Maybe I need to close a few. I don't know. I'm not very technical. Let me close a few other things. Maybe it's eating other. I've got a few websites open, so maybe that's eating up memory and interfering with stuff. Who knows? I've got a bad habit of always keeping way too much open on my computer at the same time. Here's a recipe for coq au vin. Okay, mustn't forget that. Mustn't forget that one.
How long have you known each?
Yeah. So I'm just closing a few sites. No idea if that will make a difference.
Don't.
Okay, don't want to hear that.
Don't condescend to me. I'm not a victim.
That's ContraPoints doing his weird voice. Okay.
What's the easiest way to get in touch with nature? You just head into the woods?
Sorry. Okay, I'm going to come back now, guys, and just carry on. Okay, so Amber is laughing at the Black Pampers hashtag. Right, so I'm working on a song, the Black Pamper song. I'll see how I get on with that. My mic was fine when I used it for that. So yeah, I won't reveal to what music I've put that yet. I was going to do that at the end, but perhaps not. Hello, Hassan. Catherine says it's better. Yeah, Beatrix, I've only closed like very little of them. Okay, a few of them. This can go, this can go, this can go, this can go. Oh, ew. I'm going to close my email. Quit. Close lots of things. Right, and we're back. Okay, whoever coined Black Pampers, I don't know if it was Mole at the counter on Twitter, or Moley as we call him. I don't know if he came up with that. He comes out with so much genius stuff, and as soon as I saw that, I thought I have to do something with that. And then somebody else on Twitter suggested a fantastic song. That's just the best song to use for this. So that's in the works. Dennis, I don't stream that kind of stuff. I never would. Okay, so where were we? Kelly J was starting to. So for those who've just joined, I've done a part 1, but oh, Leslie, you've done a Black Panther song already. Yes, others are much quicker than myself. Is that the Bam Lam song that you picked for that? Anyways, so yeah, I did a part 1 of this live stream, but I had some sound issues. So I've just started a new one, which is this one, which is part 2. So I have to say, every time I go to these events and you listen to the women speak, there is always so much to absorb, so much to learn. There's always so much that moves me about these things. And sometimes I wonder, you know, what else is there to say? And there's always so much to say. And everybody has a different way of saying it. And there was one woman who spoke and talked about how, you know, a vagina is very different from when a man has his penis inverted, obviously. But the way she put it was really interesting. She said the vagina is an organ. An inverted penis is an artificial cavity. It's not an organ, you know. It's not like a vagina that has its own ecosystem that it sort of maintains. It's a birthing canal, a cavity. It's just a cavity, and it's just the way that she said that just made me go, That is such a quick way to explain it. One's an organ, the other isn't. It seems so straightforward once you've heard somebody say it that way. After a while, Sarah, oh hi, and you're here. You know, it was so nice to meet you, and thank you so much for that. And Sarah, I think you're Irish, right? And Sarah made a really good point that after a while, when, you know, we'd all moved to that other spot and the speeches were in progress, then the Troons followed with their sound system and stood across the street on the other side. There was a tram track in between us, and every time there was a tram, it really blocked their sound, which was just wonderful. I thought we need more trams on a Sunday in Manchester. They were there to purposely, not just to protest, they were there to, again, like I'd seen in Wales, just to drown us out. And I don't know why the police didn't stop them from playing that music. I don't know what the rules are in terms of, do you need a license? Is it noise pollution or whatever? But the police just stood there. They were very strict in keeping us separate. But I wasn't impressed with that, as good as the music was. You know, we had some Rick Ashley, we had some Britney. The playlist was fantastic. Oh, hello. Hi, Ice007. Thank you very much for your $5. You're saying, as a gay man and a TERF, I use the term positively. How are you treated in the local LGBT community? How have you been treated by the trans cult? Right, those are some big questions. Let me get into that when I talk about what I did on the Monday. And Peach, thank you so much for your $4.99 and a wow sticker. Where was I? Noise, trams. Okay, so again, they were just there with the sound system. Police wasn't telling them to not have the sound system or to turn it down, even though I asked the police, can you get these guys to turn it down? They were just making noise, you know, and they had one guy shouting through the mic stuff like, we're on the right side of history, we are on the right side of history, and trans women are women, and protect trans children. It's like, can you stop it? Can you stop with the trans children? There is no such thing. Like, I hate the way that they're weaponizing children and children's confusion for their own benefit. Anyways, so the sound on Kelly J's live stream was pretty good. The mic was very good so that people could be heard online. But right there and then, the noise was very loud. It was very loud, and they just kept at it. They just want these women's voices not to be heard, and that's just something I find so it's just spiteful. Joey Bright, thank you very much for your $20. Thank you for your contribution, sir, and thank you, my lesbian friend from the States for how you've taken me in. It means a lot to me. So I don't want to get distracted too much. So I couldn't really listen to the speeches because I started, Kelly J asked me to do some leafleting. So I took leaflets all about, a woman is an adult human female and why it's important to speak about that. And I started going around and speaking to passers-by. And I focused specifically on men because I thought I want to speak to men. I want to get more men on board. And it was it was really positive that we had the others just on the other side of the tram track. Because when men asked me what's going on, all I had to do was say, well, here's a group of women, and they say that a woman is an adult human female. And then I would pause, and then they'd go, like, what's wrong with that? And they're like, well, what's the problem? And I said, well, ask the people over there. They don't like people saying a woman is an adult human female. And then most guys went, but they are adult human females. And I'm like, yes, but they don't agree with that. They say, or they believe that a woman is just a feeling in a person's head. And to say that a woman is an adult human female is bigoted or transphobic. And then, most guys I spoke, all the guys I spoke to, they just went, well, that's crazy. And then one said, okay, so here we have the women and there we have the gays. And I went, no, there are lesbians here and I'm a gay man and I support these women. And that shows me again how much all this gay stuff and the trans stuff has been conflated, the way they've piggybacked onto the gay rights movement. They've been very successful at doing that. And earlier today on Twitter, there was a gay man saying, I went through all this trauma as a young gay man in the 80s and the 90s, and we fought for equality, and now trans people are going through the same thing. That's what he said. So lots of gay men, they buy into this. So just to answer the question from the gentleman earlier, how are you treated? Well, the ones who bought into that. And I bought into this a couple of years ago. I just assumed that everything I'd gone through as a gay man for, a person with these identity issues would be at least 10 times worse. It's sort of a natural position. And that because of that, and this is why it's so powerful for the other side to use that, it comes from a very emotive place. And you don't want other people to be hurt. So I just said, this side is about the reality of sex, and that side is all about feels, gender feels. And these men very quickly, they, didn't have to talk too much. They got it straight away. And there was one man who, and even somewhere, like there was one who had his daughter, I think she must have only been about 6 or 7. He wasn't too interested. But then I said, it may not matter that much to you as a man, but what about your daughter here? Do you want her to be in a public toilet or a changing room with some of those blokes over there? Because they had like some, taller than 6 feet tall guys with chest hair and wigs and dresses. It's like, do you want her to have to share spaces, women or female only spaces with someone like that? And he just went, no. Then he took the leaflet. There was another man, and just as he asked me, what's this about? I did the same thing. And as I gave him the leaflet, he said, yeah, I know what a woman is. I'm a conservative Muslim. So then I thought, where is this conversation going to go? But we had a nice chat. And obviously, as a conservative Muslim, I don't think we had a friendly chat, right? And I told him I was a gay man, and that's not something that he supports. But if he wants to talk about his religion, I'm not going to put a sound system next to him and try to drown him out. Hello, Paul. Nice to see you. So I was just having lots of little conversations, and even though it feels really, really piecemeal, as in, it's a lot of talking and it's one-on-one, but I'm just hoping that some of these people, they go away, they then talk to other people, and that way we can spread the word and let people know what's going on. I also saw two guys a bit at a distance, and I could just tell that they were two gay guys, sort of youngish. So I didn't know who they were supporting, whether they were there to listen to the women or whether they were there to sort of cause trouble, because you don't know. Your local lesbian says, "I'm Christian and gay. The Bible doesn't hate gay people." Right? There's different people look at it in different ways. I'm really glad that for you, you don't feel a conflict, because from the religious angle, we've received lots of homophobia and still are. But obviously that's not everyone, and there are people for whom, fortunately, they don't experience any conflict. EMIC, thank you very much for your $4.99. Hey Menno, new subscriber from San Francisco. Love your stuff and I love you. Thank you very much. When was I in San Francisco? I went there in 2017. I was just there for 3 days, but I absolutely loved it, and I hope to come back someday. Gorgeous place. If you have a look in the chat, there's somebody else called Joey Bright. If you could reach out to Joey, because you're in the same area. Okie dokie. So having conversations with people. Right, so I saw those two guys. Anyway, there was like an empty coffee cup somewhere rolling around, and I just thought, it wasn't mine, but I thought I'll just chuck it in the bin. So I walked past them, and then one said, "Hey, Mr. Menno, we like your videos." So I thought, oh, okay. So then I had a little chat with them. They're two gay guys. They live in Manchester, where the gay scene is very compact. It's a small world, and they work in a particular area that's completely captured. So they said, we're they said we're not brave enough to speak out yet, but hopefully one day we will be. And I said, well, yeah, you need to, because there are younger guys who may well grow up to be gay, who are so easily caught up in all this and may very much regret going down a medical path. And it's guys like us that need to make an impact there and let them know that you can be a gay guy. It's fine. It doesn't mean that you're a woman trapped in men's body. You can be so-called gender non-conforming. You can be, wear whatever you want. It doesn't mean that you're not a man. And again, we need to show them that you can be, that men comes in many different ways, shapes and sizes and forms. It doesn't make us any less of a man. Oh, here's a beautiful name. I'm going to probably mispronounce it. Josie Alvarez Graham, thank you so much for your £70.99. It's very generous and very much appreciated. So thank you very much. So I had a nice chat with these two guys, and now we're connected on Instagram. So again, that's a way for them to feel like, oh, they're not the only ones, even though they feel very isolated within Manchester. So then I went back to the talks after I'd done the leafleting, and I wrote down some of the things because I didn't listen to the speeches there on the day. I was just watching them today, and I just want to read out a few things that stuck out for me. Dennis says, guess what? Men can be poets. Exactly. Like a certain Shakespeare, or caring, or not big and tough. It doesn't mean they need castration. Exactly. I think we really need to hone that down so much. And Karen says, I can't contribute financially, but you have my love. It's very free. Well, they say the best things in life are free. Okay, doke. So, Aja, Okay, so she did a spoken word thing that was very powerful. If you haven't seen the speeches yet, go to Kelly J. Keen's channel and check out the live stream there. And Aja said, in order to be true, you have to. Okay, so she's critiquing this whole gender woo stuff, especially the surgeries and the medicalization. And she said, in order to be true, you have to change everything about you, which sounds like it's the mantra of this movement and inherently contradictory, because just to be yourself is you're just are yourself. You don't have to do anything, you know. Don't go changing to trying to please society. Butterfingers, £4.49. Thank you very much. Not salad fingers, but TERF fingers. Which I bet are much more substantial than the Butterfingers. Okay. Nahanda. Okay, she's a singer from Birmingham. She does a lot of busking. And she said, everyone is a TERF in time. And I just absolutely love that. Everyone is a TERF in time. And I hope so, that it's just a matter of time before everybody kind of goes peak, 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 peaking left, right, and center. And that it's just a matter of time before people get there. Leslie Farrington. Leslie, are you still in the chat? There was something that you said that I took a note of. It includes a little bit of swearing. Leslie said they want us to fuck off. Well, we're not fucking off, we're staying here. And that got a big round of applause. And that's the kind of thing, this is why these meetings in a way are so magical. You get all sorts, you get speeches, you get heartfelt stuff, you get personal experiences, you get, some people come with more of an analysis about what's happening and showing the bigger picture. Then you get the rousing moments where everybody sort of, you know, goes, yeah, we're not having this. And feels good. It feels good to be together. And Leslie, that was definitely one of those moments. Then there was a mother of two who has an 11-year-old, and the 11, I don't want to really label kids with all these, the kid is gender critical, but basically the kid knows what a man and a woman is and feels isolated, even as an 11-year-old. Isn't that crazy that now these environments have been created in schools where kids that young feel like, sorry, somebody's given a suggestion to take that Cher song and If I Could Turn Back Time and make it If I Could TERF in Time, I will go all the way. Okay, that's a good idea. I hope that didn't make the thing crackle again. So basically, 11-year-old feels isolated. So then I got a message via Facebook where another mother that I'd met before at another event said, I have an 11-year-old as well, and she feels really isolated. Hey, can you put me in touch with that woman that spoke in Manchester? Now, I don't know who that was, but, you know, via the magic of TERFy groups, if you like, we found the other person. So if I'm not mistaken, the two 11-year-olds have now had a little chat, and I just love the idea of that these kids, they feel supported by kids their own age, and that they don't feel lost and lonely, because that, as a youngster, is not a nice place to be at all. Okay, at one point the Troons were chanting, trans women are women, blah, blah, blah. And then Kelly J led a chant, trans women are men. Okay, and then we had Sarah. I don't know if Sarah is back. Sarah Harris, yeah, I can see you. I think I just saw you pop up. There you go. I remember that, Mum, and it's okay to mention her autistic kids. Right. There were two women there that were talking about their kids that are autistic and how they are particularly vulnerable to get sucked into this, especially when in their schools there's trans flags, there's, you know, the gender unicorn and all this material. It's around them. I just think it's horrible that even at that age they feel the pressure of this social coercion around this this nonsense that we need to protect them from. So, and one of the mothers that spoke, she has a daughter who needs a lot of support with looking after, being looked after, and she wants her daughter to absolutely have the right to only have female carers. And it's in those moments that all this hits home, that why we need to keep doing this, we need to keep talking about it, we need to make as much noise as we can in as many places as possible, because it's those kids that we need to protect, among others, obviously. And then if you look across the tram track and you see, you know, some hairy dude, 6'2", with a bad wig, it's like, why should, because of that man and how he wants to dress and how he wants to feel happy, why should that have an impact on the rights of that mum's autistic daughter? It's just wrong. And that's one point I did want to make this evening, you know, because some people are like, oh, be kind, be nice, but the time to be kind is long gone. It's no longer about being kind. That's how we all got into this mess, because we naturally want to be kind, and people have been too kind. It's no longer about, oh, live and let live, and a person just wants to be happy. No, it's about how this is trying to rip the rug of reality from underneath everybody's feet and have everything be redefined so that sex no longer matters as a thing. And that is obviously what we're all speaking out against. And at events like that, when you do a charm trans women or man, it's cathartic, and you know, you can get a lot of frustration out of your system that way. And Sarah also made a good point that for the autistic people present there, that these events can be very overwhelming, because there's a sensory overload that they have difficulty processing. And even for people who are not autistic, it can be, you know, you can imagine that when you have all that shouting, all that loud music, it's already a lot to process. So she said it was actually ableist for those so-called protesters to do what they're doing, to purposely just, it's not just a drowning out, but it's really upsetting people and making it hard to pay attention. Yeah, anyway, they just show themselves up for what they are, which is just childish and out of touch and stupid, really. And they were quite young, most of them as well. There were some older ones, but mostly they were young. And then there was, I don't know the name of this lady or what name she goes by on Twitter, but she did a fantastic talk about the word woman, how that is the word for adult human females. And like, why can't women have one word? Why can't women have the word? Why does it have to be shared by males? And when you can't have a definition that includes both females and males who somehow think they're women, it's impossible. And you know, those Troons, they're always going on about, oh well, language evolves. And she's like, well, then evolve it, make up your own word. Why do you have to take ours? Which was every time you go to these events, there's so many fantastic speeches. So anyone who can come to the Bristol one, come. Charlie Cole just said, it's our damn word. Exactly. And then Kelly J asked if anybody else wanted to talk. So we were running out of time at that point, but no other women put their hand up. So then, you know, I'd asked if I could speak. So then I did my thing. I'll upload that as a separate clip. And then Alex Braham, you know who I mean, right? The guy who got kicked out of that Pride protest in Manchester last year. It's ridiculous. So, and then Kelly J finished, and it's no secret, right? I think that she's absolutely amazing. And every time I listen to her again, I pick up something new or I get more inspiration. Lorna's asking what time and where in Bristol. I don't know where in Bristol, but it'll be at 1 p.m. on the 19th of June. So just keep your eye out on different in different groups and on Twitter, and then we'll find out where it is. So because I was talking in my speech, I was saying, I was talking about holding the line on homosexuality. And she said something later. She said, in terms of, the word woman and womanhood, she said, we're not just going to hold the line, we're going to take back what you took from us. And I thought that was fantastic, because, yeah, we're not just holding the line, we're not just defending, especially in terms of women's spaces and women's language around women and women's bodies. I really like the idea of just holding the line isn't enough. We want back what you took from us. I love that. I love that whole spirit. And then she said, we couldn't give a shit how you identify. Now, some people may say, oh, that's a bit much or extreme, or that's nasty. But, that's where we are now. It's like women and, for my part as a gay man, we never asked for this. We never asked for this. It's not like we were looking, to pick a fight and we thought, oh, let's go after them. No. They came for us. And what we're seeing now with like these protests, and these Troons, similarly, like with this video that I reacted to, how to eat pussy for gay men, like on some guy's platform who's got 1.5 million subscribers. These are just the things that are popping up now. But they're like the symptoms of this thing that has been festering for years, for decades. Now these things are bubbling up, and we're seeing, what the hell has happened? How come we've missed this? And I was staying at a friend's place, and we talked about this stuff. He's a gay guy, and he keeps going back to, oh, can't we just be nice? Can't we all just get along? Well, no, it's one or the other. It's like, if you have a woman who's been arrested by the police and needs to be searched, and then you have a bloke with magical lady feels who is there to do the searching, and the woman arrested doesn't have the right to say, actually, I just want a female person. If they then say, well, actually, she identifies as a woman and she has an F on her passport and she's got a gender recognition certificate, then the woman arrested, basically, she's lost out. There's no middle ground there. What's the middle ground for that woman to be searched? That what? He only searches half her body and the female searches the other half? It's like, what's the middle ground? Like, practically, in a practical real life situation. Anyways, and I think it's lazy. I think there's a real laziness where with some gay men that I've spoken to, they just don't want to go there. They just don't want to figure it out in their heads. They don't want to work it through. They just go, oh, can't we just be nice? No, that's lazy. Deal with it. Grapple with it. Work it out in your head. Choose your position. So the next day, afterwards we all went to the pub. And it's always great anyway. You can let off some steam, you can relax after the event. We all thought it had gone very well because those Troons had shown themselves up as absolute idiots. I mean, all these pictures going around on social media and the way it's now being covered in the press, it's like they just make themselves look like absolute fools in a way that we could have never done for them. It's like sometimes it's like that video I did, it's ma'am. It's like when you just put them in the video and let them do the talking. That's the best thing you can do. So in the pub, I then met a gay guy who told me that for a couple of months, almost about 10 years ago, he was hospitalized in a psychiatric ward because of he was going through a very difficult time, and that's where he got some help. What he told me is that the staff there somehow tried to convince him that he was a woman trapped in a man's body. They told him, this is what he told me, that he was trans and that he should come out as trans to his mother. And he didn't. He came out as gay. But if this story is true, then that's quite shocking. That if you have someone who's just been in, through hell, and whatever he went through, it was enough to end up in that place temporarily, in a very vulnerable state, on some kind of medication, and to then try to put this idea into someone's head that they're trans. And it reminds me of something I heard at the LGBT Alliance conference last year, where Az Hakim, who's worked as a psychiatrist for the NHS for years, and I've also heard this from Teeps, who's in the chat, that within the world of psychology and psychiatry, there's been a lot of homophobia, and that's never gone away. They're just dressing it up in a different way. Dennis is saying he's signing off. All right. We shall speak very soon. Okay. Catherine says they are taking advantage of a vulnerable person. So I want to have more conversations with this guy just to find out a bit more, do some research, because if it's true and it happened to him, then it could have happened. It could be happening to other people, and maybe the gender clinic is just another form of gay conversion, as I believe it is in some cases. And we saw that from the Sonia Appleby versus Tavistock Tribunal, that was highlighted as a safeguarding concern by the safeguarding lead, that this is in some cases a form of gay conversion. And Butterfingers is asking, Menno, when's your next song? You know what? I can't wait to do another song. So there's the one that I want to do is called Y Chromosome, but I might do the Black Panther song first, because obviously that's still fresh. So maybe get it out tomorrow at a push, otherwise Friday. So, and again, it's when you go to these events and you meet these people, that's when you find out all these things. That's why it's so good to meet in real life. Black Panther song, yes, I've recorded the audio for it. Just have to check if it's okay, then put a video for it together. It's to sort of a rocky, slow, rocky song with a bit of a country twist. Okay, so the next day, I'm still in Manchester, and I met a friend for lunch, and then I was very close to Canal Street. So I'm like, okay, that's the heart of the gay village. I'm a gay man. I don't feel at home there because it's progress flags, rainbow flags everywhere. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to do some turfing. So I had my adult human female stickers. Lorna, yes, you're right. And so I had my stickers in my pocket. I thought I'm going to just put them up on some lampposts and stuff. I've only walked down Canal Street for like 2 meters, and a beautiful butch-looking lesbian comes right up to me and goes, Mr. Menno, and she had quite a serious look in her eyes, and I'm like, uh-oh, they're going to kick me out Canal Street. I haven't even been here for a minute. But she just went, love what you're doing, love your videos. And then she walked on real quick. And I thought, oh, that's kind of weird. Because when somebody recognizes you, you never know, is this going to be positive or can the situation get a little bit hairy? Anyway, I put some stickers up. I don't know how long they've stayed up, but I thought, it's worth a shot. There was one of a man in a dress and a wig, and I just stuck the adult human female on top of it. And then I saw that there's a bar there called Bar Pop, and it had a big sign on the wall that talked about how grateful they were that the community was helping them fundraise for mermaids. And I walked past and I saw that, and I thought, here is a gay bar, one of the biggest, I think, in the gay village. with a big sign saying we're fundraising for mermaids, where I think, again, that's I mean, we know what Susie Green did to her son, and she had him put on an experimental cocktail of puberty blockers and estrogen when she took him to the States to have that done. And then for his 16th birthday, so when he was still 15, she flew him over to Thailand to have surgery on his genitals, which wasn't available in the UK. And then afterwards, apparently in Thailand, they banned that surgery on 16-year-olds. So, and I saw the documentary about Susie Green and her son, and him wanting to become like a beauty queen. And in that, there's like, she's saying that when he was like a young child, he was twirling around in a dress or something in a shop, and she was embarrassed. And I think that, you know, there's my take on it is there's a fair bit of homophobia at play there. Kelly J. Keane also did a fantastic takedown of Susie Green's TED Talk. So to see it there on, you know, on the wall of a place that's supposed to be a place where gay men can feel welcome, I just thought you might as well just say, hey, we promote medical gay conversion therapy. Please come in and give us some money. I thought it was horrible. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to walk in and speak to the manager. So I asked at the bar, hey, can I speak to your manager about, you know, the relationship between this bar and mermaids? So I waited for a bit, and after a few minutes, this guy came down. And first I thought, okay, I want to build a bit of a rapport with this bloke. And he did something that I thought was quite odd, because I thought if I was the manager of the bar, the first thing I would ask him is, hey, what's your name? What is your question? Or are you from a company? Or, you know, something to get some information about the other person so you can understand where their question is coming from, so that you can give them a good answer. Anyway, he didn't. He just launched straight into, I didn't even have to say anything. He just went, yeah, we work with mermaids. We've been working with them for 5 years. And they're a fantastic organization. You know, they do such good work. And by the way, we have the most trans staff here in the village. And I thought, okay, this guy is just virtue signaling. Catherine, yes, he's proud of it. Hi, Linda Law, nice to see you back. So this guy he didn't want to find out who I am or why I'm there or why I, you know, choose to walk in off the street and ask him about his relationship with mermaids. He just launches into, oh, we are amazing because we work with mermaids, basically. We have the most trans staff. We've fundraised all this money. So we're just chatting about that a little bit. And then I diverted the conversation a little bit, because I just wanted to suss out a bit more what he's aware of and what he isn't aware of. So I mentioned the gay conversion therapy ban, and he wasn't aware of that. And I thought, no, either you're really dumb or you're playing dumb. But he seemed to be unaware that even though a lot of noise has been made about, you know, gender identity now not being included, he wasn't aware of it. So I told him a bit about, this was the plan for the ban. It was meant to be for both sexual orientation and gender identity. And then they dropped the whole thing. And then there was an outcry. So then they went ahead with the sexual orientation conversion ban, but not the T. He, again, wasn't aware of that. And I'm just like, oh my days. And then this was all a very good-natured conversation, right? And then he had long hair and had it up in a bun, and so did I. So we just joked about that a bit. So I just didn't want to come across like aggressive or like a freak or whatever, or antagonizing, so that from the get-go you're not going to go anywhere. So it wasn't until a bit further into the conversation that Hallie Astrup is asking probably a stupid question. Is Menno British? No, I am Dutch. Ha! I'm from Holland, but I've lived there for a while, and my accent is all over the place. Anyways, so then I said, you know, I'm a bit worried about I have my reservations about mermaids, and that's why I thought I'd come in. Because have you ever heard of the idea of transing away? No, I asked, do you know about praying away the gay? And he's like, yes, of course. And then I said, okay, have you heard about transing away the gay? And then he's like, no. And he seemed very surprised. I don't know if that was acted or who knows. I don't know the guy one. But and again, I tried to be quite diplomatic about it. I said, in some cases, some of these young people that go to the gender clinic, they're struggling with being same-sex attracted, being a lesbian or being gay. They haven't quite figured it out yet. They may not be aware that that's what it is that they're struggling with. And they end up going down the path to transition when that's not really the right route for them. And then they realize it when it is too late. And I told them about 2 guys who have gone down that route and who have come to regret it, who have detransitioned and have now learned to accept themselves as gay men and are, trying to pick up the pieces of what's happened to them psychologically, but also physically, obviously, with the hormones and with the surgeries, what they've gone through, and how do you put your life back together again? Beatrix says, Shapeshifter. Yeah, I'd love to talk to Shapeshifter. I left some comments on his videos, which he responded to. He's left some on mine. So we've sort of been acknowledging one another that way. I'd love to talk to him. Anyways, and then I felt that he wanted the conversation to end. So I thought all I can achieve in this conversation potentially is just to put some, just to hopefully make him see that something's up, and it needs looking at, by him. And we did have one little moment where we had a little joke where he talked about the LGBTQIA plus community, and then I said, oh well, actually I think there's a newer variation now. And he's like, really? And I said, yeah, LGBTQIA NBPQ2 plus. And he just went, oh, like he couldn't keep up. And that's when I thought, you're not really buying into all this stuff if that's confusing to you. Anyways, so I left there. I did appreciate him giving me the time, and he didn't scream transphobe or bigot, as soon as I started saying I have some concerns about this. He basically said, why don't you call mermaids? Somebody's asking how old was he? I think he was in his 30s, early 30s maybe. So, and then I walked past a Wagamama's in Manchester with a huge sign in the window, which again was the Progress rainbow flag, the Progress pride flag. And I just really have issues with that flag. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to pop in there as well and speak to the manager. So, Paul, yes, you're completely right. It's all about the interests, the commercial interests. So I walked in and I spoke to the shift manager. And again, I started it off in a way that was friendly. And I said, look, I just saw that flag. And I said, as a gay man, the rainbow flag means a lot to me. And he was sort of nodding along. And I said, it's so important to feel like included in your community, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And then I said, but that version of the flag, this new version, that scares me. And then he went, what do you mean? And I said, well, did you hear about? And then I talked about, again, the Sonia Appleby versus Tavistock. And I talked about the gay male detransitioners. I don't want to give too much in one conversation. And again, he was interested. He was listening. And I said, so what this flag represents is a new form of homophobia. And it represents the medical conversion of gays and lesbians. Those two things, that's what it represents to me. And he straight away went, well, it's nothing to do with me. I'm just a shift manager. It comes from head office. And I thought, okay, you know, just like the other guy said, talk to mermaids. And I thought maybe this is something that that would be a good idea to approach these businesses and say, you know, this is potentially sending out the wrong messages. Because if you think about it, you know, lesbians and gays would be the biggest cohorts in the LGBTQ alphabet soup community. And I just said to him, look, you know, I'm not the only one who feels this. There's a growing number of gays and lesbians that feel very uncomfortable with this. And also because this guy talked about the queer community. And we said, no, that again, that word alienates. So why would you want to alienate a large swathe of people within the community that you're professing to stand up for and want to be included? So I said, you know, lots of people may walk around past this sign and go, that puts me off, you know, I'll give Wagamama a miss. I just happened to walk in, but how many, and talk to you about it, but how many people don't? So I said, it'd be good if you could raise this with, you know, with your management. And then I thought, yeah, I'm going to start writing letters to these businesses. Because the more that we're having these conversations, the more it gets out, right? And the more they can't ignore it. Like, oh, I heard this guy say that. Oh, I heard that guy say that. Oh, this woman came in and said that. Oh, something's up. We need to look at this. And I think especially if these businesses realize, because, you know, they're businesses, they're all about the money. So if we can make them see that this can either, this can affect their reputation, then I think that'd be a good thing to do. Because if they're going to be seen to be on the side of medicalizing the gays, medically converting the gays and the lesbians, and for this new form of homophobia. Actually, a good one is when I talk about, again, this video that came out, how to eat pussy for gay men. Straight away they go, oh, not in terms of the act, but that it's not appropriate to ask that of a gay man or to promote that narrative. That they can see, yes, actually, it has gone too far, and this flag represents all that nonsense. So, so I left there, and then I saw a young woman. She told me she was 21 later on. She was handing out some little cards for some kind of bar, so you can get, you know, I don't know, 20% of your drinks, whatever. So she's handing them out. And I just thought, let's just have a chat with her. You know, it wasn't busy. There weren't many passers-by. And most people just go, no, thank you. So then I got talking to her about just having been in Manchester for a few days and how it's such a cosmopolitan area. And I asked her if she had noticed any conflict between different groups. And then I mentioned the event with Kelly J and the Troons. So I didn't tell her sort of what my points of view were. I just wanted to see what she thought. And straight away she says, well, I'm non-binary. I'm just going, oh, here we go. We had a really nice chat. And she actually said, I think there's a problem with the younger generation, that they don't appreciate what the older generations have been through. And, you know, in terms of how they use the word queer. So that was quite a nice chat. And I said to her, look, I see you, and you say you're non-binary, but does it offend you if I see you as female? And she said no, because I said, I see a young woman on the street and you're handing out, you know, flyers for a bar, and I can imagine that, you know, you get some tricky people walking by, especially late at night. And you're vulnerable in a way that I'm not vulnerable. And that's just down to me being male and you being female. And she was okay with that. So it's quite interesting for her at 21 to recognize that these younger ones have a certain arrogance and an entitlement and don't take the time to listen to us old farts. And I don't really know what non-binary means to her. She just looked like I don't know, just very much a woman. But I think that now that non-binary has sort of exploded, I think there's some gay men and some lesbians that are looking at that and thinking, well, actually, oh, I don't just want to be a boring gay or a boring lesbian. Actually, I'll just add they them to my pronouns, you know, to my she, her, and my he, him, because then I can have some of that, you know, modern woke magic. And we're seeing straight people doing that as well, where they're coming out as non-binary, and it's like, well, what's non-binary? What's non-binary about you? They just want in on it and stay current, I think, a lot of them. Anyways, I've been talking for quite a while. That's an hour. But it was an interesting trip. I like having all these conversations, and it gives me ideas of what we could do, perhaps campaigning wise. So I'll just sort of wrap it up. As I got to the train station, I thought, oh, I'll just get some hot chocolate. So I go to like upper crust, and there was someone in front of me, at least 6 foot, very long curly hair, and a Hello Kitty jacket, and a long skirt, massive feet. And, you know, you could see it from a distance. This is a man. Had a mask, and he ordered his hot chocolate in quite a deep voice. I just thought that's just, wait, we both had a hot chocolate, you know? There's always some common ground. But, and, you know, part of me goes, yeah, wear that, do that, whatever, live your life. But then right after that, I was picturing him in the women's toilet. And what if there's, you know, the 11-year-old is there and is intimidated by this man's presence? And also he had like a nervous twitch with his eye, and he was kind of nervously rocking back and forth. So I thought, oh, there's obviously something else going on there. And even with the Hello Kitty jacket, I'm like, what is it with some of these guys? Oh, sorry, there's a suggestion. Beatrix made a suggestion. Black Panther song. Are you going to dress as a leather-clad ninja and be sexy in a doorway or on a country porch? If you become one of my Patreon supporters, then maybe I can afford those kind of sets for a video. I thought I would just stick to the footage of Sunday itself. But for the next video, the Y chromosome video, I'm getting about 5 different costumes together. So I want that to be a bit more like the cis song, you know, that type of video. And okay, so yeah, I was just wondering, why are some of them so attracted to all this kiddie stuff? You know, this childlike, childish stuff. It's like you're a grown man. Obviously, he can't accept that. But then I thought, is there also another element where they don't want to accept being adults, you know, and holding on to childhood some way? Or let me know what your thoughts are on that. Anyway, I just thought this person is very much out of touch with reality, and yeah, maybe it just makes him feel even more girly. Who knows? Hope you liked this hot chocolate. I took mine on the train, and also even on the way to Manchester, right, the train up there, I had a table seat, which was nice, and double check, my birthday is the 19th of June, so it's a month away, a month and a day. Anyway, so on the way, I'm on the train at a table, and right opposite me is a young guy, early 20s, and he had glittery, oh, can't say it, glittery, sparkly nail polish on, and I thought, good for you. You know, I like seeing guys and girls who don't give a shit and just dress however they please, and don't give a shit about all the conventions about what men and women should and should not wear. Unless it's a tall 6 foot something bloke with a Hello Kitty jacket. But anyways, so my initial response, even after, you know, I haven't looked at all this stuff for like 2 years or so now, my initial response was, good for you. And then my second response was, is this a non-binary person? And then he was checking his phone, and his screensaver of the phone was the non-binary flag, and I just thought, oh. So anyway, it was quite funny that the trip was bookended that way, on the train with the non-binary, and then just before I jump on the train, the Hello Kitty dude. Okay, is there anything else I want to add? Because spoken for quite a while. Oh, and then earlier today, just round the corner, I just went to the supermarket and then walked past a woman who kind of looked at me, and then a few meters later, she's like, "Mr. Menno?" And I turned around and I said, "Yes." And she's like, "I love your videos." And then she ran. She seemed a bit scared. It's kind of weird. It makes me a bit nervous because I'm like, who else, you know? It's weird because obviously I've got my channel and I've hit 10,000 subscribers, but it's not like I have a big presence, and 10,000 in YouTube terms is absolutely tiny. I guess more people watch it than subscribe, but still it's weird to get recognized in Manchester. And where I live in London, this is like the fourth time in 3 weeks where I've been recognized locally, and people saying that they appreciate what I do. And I mean, she sort of, it seemed like she just wanted to run off, but I just said, "Are you okay? Hello." So then we did have a little chat, and I said, "You know what, TERFs are everywhere, especially in this area," which seemed to cheer her up a bit, I think. Hannah Reynolds says, "Is this now the appropriate way to greet you, Mr. Menno? I love your videos." Then leg it. It's quite funny. It is quite funny. Okie dokie. So what have I covered? Everything I wanted to cover. Oh, there was also a lesbian that I spoke to in the pub who said her and her partner, they're working class lesbians, and they've lost everything. She said, in terms of, their scene, the lesbian scene, the lesbian nights have gone, well, because it's now all inclusive of males, the dating apps, it's all men on them. And it's sad. It's really sad, that sense of loss that so many people express. And that's why I really liked it when Kelly J said, "We're not just holding in the line, we're taking back what you took from us." Okay, and in terms of what's next? Okay, so I'm gonna do another live stream on. Oh, somebody else says that the audio is lousy. Do you know what? I changed the mic, but I'm really sorry to hear that the audio is a bit shit. I'll have a look at it tomorrow. I don't really know what to do at this point. Oh, and Leslie, did you see the mic thief? Yes. Okay, so at the end of the speeches on Sunday, a woman came up from behind Kelly J and said that she wanted to speak, and she's a woman, and this is about let women speak. So, Lola, good night. Oh, good night. You say I have to feed the sheep. All right. Hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining. I'll restart the computer, and maybe that might sort out the microphone issues. It's annoying that I can't check it. I don't know what the quality is like until we're talking and you give me the feedback. So sorry about that. Where was I? Okay, so I want to do another live stream on Sunday, and that's to celebrate, reaching 10,000 subscribers, which I'm so happy about that. So I thought it'd be fun if we could have a bit of an Ask Me Anything session in that, because normally I tend to focus my live streams on a specific thing, like here, the Sunday in Manchester and the Monday. But if there's anything you want to know about or want me to talk about, just leave a comment on this video. I'll go through them, and then we can just have a nice little chat on Sunday about all sorts. Okay, and I'm working on the Black Panther song, and I'm working on the Y chromosome song, so plenty of stuff to do. Okay, I'm just going to check the comments for our last time before I end the chat. Oh my God, this. Please pass that suggestion on to Kelly J about security. Okay, I'll reread the chat afterwards. Okay, so you know what? as the sound is okay-ish, let me see if I give you a little preview. I'll sing quietly, right? Because there's people living upstairs. Right. Black Pampers. There's a statue in the middle of the city where women gather to stand up for their rights. But some incels chose to leave their grotty basements. They took the statue and they dressed it up in lies. And like the colors of their flag, baby pink and blue, these kids have really got some growing up to do. Black Pampers, hear those little kids cry. Black Pampers trying to trash women's rights. Their new religion, it will bring us to our knees. Black Pampers, grow up, please. Okay, you're the first to have heard that. Okie dokie. Right. I'm gonna love you and leave you. Thank you so much for joining me this evening and putting up with the audio issues. Hopefully Sunday will be much better. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good night. If you're elsewhere in the world, have a good morning, have a good afternoon, and I shall see you soon. Ciao, ciao.